Hi, and welcome to this week's video blog on Some Assembly Required. My name is Sarah Hammerker, and I'm glad you joined me today. For this week's topic, we're going to talk about free-range parenting. With Memorial Day just a day or two away, this is a good time, I think, to think about the freedoms we give our kids and how we want how we want them to grow and learn this summer. So let's talk about free-range parenting. It's basically the kind of parenting that most of us, or some of us, probably grew up with, right? We grew up with our parents allowing us to go play. I remember when I was a kid, I used to go down and play in the ditch near our house with my friends, sometimes by myself. I was gone for hours, and we all came home when it was dark. That was kind of what we did. My parents knew all the neighbors, and they all watched out for us. It was really great. Now fast forward to today, and many parents are called helicopter parenting. And even if you are not quite a helicopter in all aspects of your child's life, many of us forget that we don't need to watch them as closely as we did when they were toddlers. Sometimes we follow them around on the playground when they're perfectly capable of doing things by themselves. Sometimes we drive them places rather than letting them walk, a couple blocks to a friend's house, for example. We imagine a boogeyman behind every bush. And while there is danger in our kids, not in our kids, but danger in society, it's really a lot less than we think it is. Statistically speaking, the number of stranger abductions of our children, which is, let's face it, that's one of our big fears as parents, right, is basically the same as it was 50, 60 years ago. With social media, we hear about the problem more. So we're more aware of these either stranger abductions, children missing, terrible things happening to children. We hear about them a lot more. That doesn't mean they're happening more. So how do you become a free-range parenting? Well, let's talk about a few ways that free-range parenting is good for your kids. It's good because it allows them the ability to get to and from places on their own. There's something about walking by yourself to your friend's house that makes you feel like you're growing up. There's so many things that kids can't do these days that maybe we did as kids, but that's a simple thing. You walk with your child the first time. You maybe stand on your porch and watch them go the second time. The third time, you let them go on their own. This is how you train them how to do it. My girls, when they were about 9 and 11, they wanted to go to the library all the time, much more than I could go, and especially in the summer. So we had walked to the library as a family many times, and I allowed them to walk by themselves to the library. We discussed where they needed to go. In other words, there was a path through the woods, a perfectly lovely path as a family, but I did not want those two girls to be taking that path. It's not long, but it's out of sight of both major roads that they walk on the sidewalks next to these major roads. And we didn't want them to have that walk through there. So we decided, okay, you can go to the library, but here's the route you're going to take. They loved it. They did it all the time as young girls. Another time, my oldest, when she was in 5th grade, she was about 11, she loved to ride her bike. One day she got lost. I mean, horribly lost. We didn't know where she was. Turns out she didn't know where she was. She was about a 10-minute drive from our house. She had gone miles, and I'm not sure, even this day, I'm not really sure how she got there. But while she was upset, she wasn't totally devastated. She sat on a corner because she remembered from our scout training. We're American Heritage girls, love them, teach girls wonderful life skills and safety skills. She remembered that she needed to be at an intersection because that was the best way to be found. So she waited. She knew I was going to come, or Dad was going to come. And a mom drove by and saw her, and then that mom called. Naomi told her the number. That mom called us, told me where she was. I went to get her. She was a little bit teary, but she knew what to do. She wasn't in a panic. And I think this is the key. Kids, when we don't let our children do things like this by themselves, when we don't let them go on bike rides by themselves in a neighborhood setting where we want them to go, we don't let them walk literally around the block to their friend's house, we're making the world seem a much scarier place than it needs to be. And then they don't learn that they can handle some of the unexpected things that come out, like getting lost on a bike. Now, Naomi's solution for getting lost on the bike was to get a phone. Yes, none of our children have cell phones. And we said, no, that's not the solution. The solution is we're going to give you a map. So we found a map of our neighborhood. We showed her where our house was. We showed her how to read the map. We showed her how to look at the street signs and figure out where she was. And a couple days later, she comes back and she has this huge grin on her face from her bike ride. And I said, how was your bike ride? And she said, I got lost. But there's this twinkle in her eye. She goes, but I looked at the map, I found the street signs, and I made my way home all by myself. You couldn't have had a prouder fifth grader at that moment. So now that summer is approaching, this is a great time to give your kids more freedom. So here's some things I want you to think about. I want you to look at your house and see where your kids could go by themselves this summer. Maybe it's your local pool. Maybe it's a local park. Maybe it's a friend's house. Is it walking to grandma's house or an aunt's house? To the library? To a convenience store to get a Slurpee on a hot summer day? Where can they go by themselves? All right, you figure that out. And then you're going to take them there once, twice, a couple of times, walking, so that they can, or riding your bikes if you're a biking family, so they can figure out where it is and how to get there. And then you start letting them go. Now, you don't need to overload them with cell phones. Seriously, you don't need to overload them with cell phones. You don't need to panic about them. You need to relax and let them explore their world. Give them this permission. Now, of course, you're not going to do this with a 3-year-old. Let's just not be crazy here. You're going to look at your child's age and you're going to let them have this freedom. And you're not going to panic about it. You're going to help them to enjoy these things. You're going to help them to see that they are capable beings of doing these things. And they're going to have a fantastic summer. So let's get some free-range parenting back into your life. And enjoy your summer with your kids and send them off on their own and let them explore and walk and be and ride their bikes places and just have that joy of being a kid again. Thank you for joining me for this week's Some Assembly Required video blog. I'm Sarah Hammaker, and I'll see you next week.